From the Republic Media Network headquarters, it's time for Arnab Goswami on the debate. Arnab Goswami on the debate.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome. The first budget of the Modi 3.0 government will be presented tomorrow. And of course, there are the usual things that economists and people who are looking at things from a macro perspective will be looking at in this budget. For example, will they sustain the growth momentum? Will they manage the fiscal deficit? Will the investment in infrastructure continue to have a reasonable increase? Will the overall focus of Modi 3.0 indicate certainty or not? And viewers, in that context, one word which always comes up is continuity. Since Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been elected for a third term, though with lesser numbers, the Prime Minister's focus has been to indicate that nothing has changed, that it is business as usual, that the lesser numbers of the BJP and of the NDA will not determine at least the course of policy making. Ladies and gentlemen, and therefore we have pretty much the same ministers and the same positions, some with expanded portfolios, and the continual focus of the Modi government has been continuity, continuity, continuity. It's almost as if this is a seamless 15-year term. That's the sense the government wants to give, which is all right. But one area where the government needs to change its thinking, and one area where the government needs to tweak its policies. And the one area where the Modi 3.0 government should be more expansive and generous than Modi 2.0 or 1.0 is vis-a-vis the middle class of the country. And I'm not saying that the Modi government must give more to the middle class or give them sops or appease them. No. All I'm saying is that the Modi 3.0 government must be fair to the middle class of this country. And what do I mean by being fair? Let's put a few things clearly out there, viewers. The middle class is the greatest contributor in terms of taxes, but they don't get any tax breaks. It's time they get some. A rise in income means that it may not be fair to put everyone who gets 1 lakh rupees and above in a 30% tax bracket. That does not, and the government must realize, it does not incentivize income tax itself. It does not incentivize volumes. The government has been reasonable, more than reasonable, to corporates. It slashed the corporate tax rate from 30% to 22%. But did the middle class get any breaks? Absolutely none. Ladies and gentlemen, at the highest levels, tax is at 40%, and I'm not talking about the effective rate of taxation. Because if you include everything else, some say the effective rate of taxation for the highest tax brackets is over 55%, and they are not wrong. Also, we must realize this is a country where, in turn, this is not a socialist economy. We may say we are socialist, we are not a socialist economy. The support systems are poor. The infrastructure that the average citizens gets by way of paying taxes is not of reasonable expectations. Health services, for example, hospitals, there's a huge qualitative difference in medical care between the government setup and the private setup, which means pretty much, very often, the same tax-paying Indian citizen is left to fend for themselves when it matters. Viewers, the BJP must realize this has a political impact. The middle class is decisive. The numbers of the middle class have an impact. As of now, last estimation that the middle class is over 30, 31, 32% of the population. The middle class has been the base of the BJP. Maybe it is because of a certain level of disenchantment that the middle class has moved away. Yes, there will be people who will say the middle class largely voted for the NDA. It did. But in percentage terms, it came down by 3%. And for the Congress, it went up by 2%. Yes, the BJP still gets more of the middle class vote than the Congress or opposition parties, but there has been a marginal decline. The BJP must realize that in order to have continuity of its policies, it needs to continue to get voted into power. It must not make the mistakes that have been made by previous regimes, like the Atal Bihari Vajpayee regime, which went so much for the Shining India futuristic program that it disregarded the fact that there was a middle class disenchantment. And therefore, when the middle class turnout in the elections of 2004 was much less than projected, we all know what happened. The BJP lost power in 2004. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not looking at all of this in terms of a bargaining chip. All that I'm saying is, a corporate is taxed for profit, which means taxed on the surplus they have earned. An individual is not taxed on anything minus deductions. An individual is taxed on their total income. Therefore, life is much tougher for middle class individuals today than it was earlier, and life is much easier for corporates today than it was earlier. And that's where we have to strike a balance. Viewers, I personally believe that it is time for the middle class to get a break. Not because they've been the usual supporters of the NDA, or most of them have been. It's because they deserve it. And if you're a tax-paying, salaried, honest citizen of India, tell me, wouldn't you agree with me? That is debate number 1 tonight. And that's going to be the focus of my budget presentation as well. Yes, viewers, I think the middle class deserves a break tomorrow. Therefore, tomorrow, if you want to have budget coverage which focuses on you, please follow it on Republic. That's also debate number 1. Debate number 2 is more contentious, maybe as contentious. You've had a draconian order which had earlier banned government employees from participating in RSS activities. It has been lifted by the Modi government. This move comes even as there were reports of sourness between the BJP and the RSS. That's a huge political debate at 9 o'clock. And here are the headlines this Monday evening on the debate tonight. A draconian order which had been imposed by the Indira Gandhi government by the Congress government, banning government officials from participating in RSS activities has been lifted today. The BJP has hailed the withdrawal of the order, but the Save Constitution lobby sees red. They question the neutrality of bureaucracy, but themselves participate in so-called special welfare clubs, which are anti-India. This is the big controversy of the day, ladies and gentlemen, and our lead headline tonight.
Sir, with your permission, I rise to lay on the table a copy each of the following papers, both in Hindi and English versions. Economic Survey 23-24, Economic Survey 23-24, Statistical Appendix.
Less than 14 hours to go for the Union Budget. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman tables the Economic Survey report along with the Statistical Appendix. She says the budget is for Viksit Bharat and that the Indian financial sector is at a turnpike moment.
विकसित भारत का जो हमारा सपना है, उस सपने को पूरा करने की मजबूत नींव वाला बजट लेकर के हम कल देश के सामने आएंगे.
In his inaugural address, ahead of the commencement of Parliament's budget session, Prime Minister Narendra Modi says that this budget will set a roadmap for the next 5 years. he also says that the opposition should stop trying to stifle his voice and wants them to set aside the bitterness of recent days for the smooth functioning of the House. And yes, the stage is set for the 11th Union Budget under Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the 7th under Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, her 7th in a row. We go live from 6 a.m. onwards. From 8 a.m. we will intensify our coverage. I look forward to having you with us as we discuss the impact on the citizen, on corporate India, and on the overall macroeconomic picture. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that there will be a lot of politics regardless of what is in the budget. But let me set my priorities straight. Let me make it clear what I'm going to be looking at. Yes, this is the post-election budget. There are two things I'll be looking at. One, is it going to be as grand and big bang as had been indicated or hinted pre-election by the Prime Minister himself? Secondly, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to keenly look at this budget to see whether it gives the middle class of the country, many of whom are watching this program tonight, the break they so truly deserve. A break, not sobs. Let's debate.
The eve of budget is here, and India is gearing up for the first budget of Modi 3.0.
ये बजट अमृत काल का एक महत्वपूर्ण बजट है। हमें 5 साल का जो अवसर मिला है, आज का बजट हमारे उन 5 साल के कार्य की दिशा भी तय करेगा। और ये बजट 2047 जब आजादी के 100 साल होंगे, तब विकसित भारत का जो हमारा सपना है, उस सपने को पूरा करने की मजबूत नींव वाला बजट लेकर के हम कल देश के सामने आएंगे।
All eyes are on Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, who is set to create history by presenting her 7th straight budget tomorrow for the fiscal year 2024-25. But the biggest question on everyone's mind this budget season is, what does Modi 3.0 have in store for the middle classes? One of the top things in everyone's wish list is tax cuts for the middle class, who are the biggest contributors to GST in India. The list varies from demands asking for change in tax slabs to asking for more deductions under the new tax regime.
We've also said that there may be a need right now to provide some relief to the middle class, given that cost of everything globally has gone up. Of course, India has managed this inflation much better. So can there be some relief at income tax at the lower end, maybe up to 20 lakhs or so? Can there be some enhancements to PM Kisan and to also Manrega wages that would provide some relief to the middle class, boost consumption, which in turn feeds back into investments coming back.
In the last 10 years, India has seen tremendous development in infrastructure and has seen welfare schemes touching the last mile, from Ujjwala to PM Awas Yojana. However, it is the urban middle class that has been a core voter base of the BJP since its inception. And as the Modi government enters its historic third term, the question they ask is, what is in store for them?
So this is a debate on which I'm going to open up the phone lines, because I'm already getting a lot of feedback, and I personally think that the BJP should reward the middle class and not take the middle class for granted. They have, to a large extent, taken the middle class for granted, and they should read the signals tonight. The middle class is over 30% of the country's population, is the core voter base of the BJP, and whenever the middle class turns its back or reduces its support for any political party, especially the BJP, it gets voted out of power. This time, I want to let you know, viewers, the middle class voted 3% less for the BJP, 2% more for the Congress. These are not things which can be disregarded. So I'm opening the debate tonight. Let's get all views in. I'll start with Akhil Swami. Akhil Swami, I'll start with you. I welcome Sanju Verma, Sohail Seth, Kishore Subramaniam, Lokesh Jindal. I see Shuman Kumar Mukherjee from Kolkata. He's an economist and consultant. And we'll have the SP as well. Akhil Swami, I'm opening with you. What would I say the middle class should be rewarded? What is your sense? How would you view it? Can you share any numbers or what you'd like to see tomorrow?
Yeah, no, I won't agree with you at all. See, there are three basic classes, the rich, the middle class and the poor. And you said that there are around 35% of middle class in this country. What percentage are paying the income tax? So the basic issue is that they are very fortunate. They are very fortunate in India right now for last 10 years who are paying income tax. A larger population, the majority of the population don't even have the basic things to have in their life. So middle class should be taxed more, the rich should be taxed higher, and the super rich and the filthy rich, they should be taxed so much that the poor can be given the benefit. Other thing is that you have to give the medical facilities and the education facilities to the poor. You are privatizing.
Let me one second. Now you're getting into speech mode. I'm going to stop you right there. Thank you for your opening remarks. I completely disagree with you. I think it's completely absurd. I think you're not aware of the facts, and I'd like to share some of the facts. Viewers, yes, very few people in India pay taxes. But that is not the middle class's problem. It's the middle class pays the most tax in the country. The middle class bears most of the tax burden in the country. It accounts for nearly all of the government's individual income tax collection of 10 lakh crore, and only 3% pay income tax. So I beg to differ from you, everyone on. The middle class is the most honest and the most compliant section of India. And if you don't know that, then I feel sorry for you. Akhil Swami, I'm getting a contrary view. Suhail's got his hand up. Suhail, what would you like to see for the middle class in the budget?
I think Akhil Swami's formidable knowledge of economics, the Indian population's demographics is laudable and it's worthy. It's people like him who have no clue about who's paying taxes, what the definition of classes are. There is no question that the middle class has been left in the lurch for a long time by successive governments. You were right, it's not just the BJP, the Congress has also fiddled with it. The only time that when Manmohan Singh was the finance minister, at that point in time, there was some very, very interesting policies that were meant for the middle class. But to say that the middle class should be pushed into oblivion because they don't pay taxes is a silly argument. I think the following needs to be done. The government needs to extend Ayushman Bharat, the medical cover, to the poorest of the poor. This free rations, which goes out to 80 million people, needs to be rechecked. Because what is happening, Arnab, is you don't realize this, a lot of people are not available in urban cities for work because they're going back to their villages because they're happy with this free ration. That needs to be altered. I think the middle class needs to have some incentives because they are also the saving class. The one thing that perhaps Mr. Swami needs to rejig in his mind is that the maximum amount of savings actually happens in the middle class because they don't have these windfalls that other classes have. You know, he talked about super rich, filthy rich. I think to use a phrase like filthy rich in itself is stupid. I mean, you know,
I think you don't care for poor. You don't care for poor.
I mean,
you are anti-poor.
Gandhi's are anti-poor. Is that a phrase to use? You should define it in terms of population classes. I think the point Mr. Swami wishes to make is that tax collection needs to increase. Any country where the tax rates go up, the revenues decline because the tax base suddenly starts dwindling. We have seen this in our country and we're continuing to see it across the world. My two-bit on this is as follows. Number one, the middle class needs to get, I won't say more sops, but they need to be at the forefront of the thinking of India's finance minister and the BJP for political and non-political reasons. Yes, I'm in favor of rejigging the tax for the rich. If you believe that the rich are not being taxed effectively or efficiently, by all means go and tax the rich.
Yeah.
But you cannot rob Peter to pay Paul, or vice versa.
But I don't know why the BJP hasn't done that. I mean, I wonder why, Sanju, the BJP has this feeling that it's got to punish the people who backed it the most. And that can be a very self-defeating point of view. You can have any economic rationale for it. You'll realize when the middle class punishes you for it. And also, you know, there has been significant relief for the business sector. Significant relief. I'm not saying that's good or bad, but when you brought down corporate taxes, one of the first things you did after getting re-elected in 2019 was not to help the middle class. The first thing you did was to help the corporate community, and you brought down their taxes from 30 to 22%, right? On the contrary, you are fully aware that there have been no adjustments and no relief to personal income tax since 2012. After being in power for 10 years, why does the middle class have to beg the BJP to look at it? This is, you know, it's a very, very high tax bracket, you know. And I think that, you know, it's also, when you brought in GST, you keep talking about GST compliances. The compliance of the GST is because of the middle class. You keep waving those GST numbers, the middle class is viewers. By the way, if you're middle class, you are the biggest contributor to GST. You are the biggest contributor to income tax, and you get no breaks. Republic is asking you, the government tonight, why that is the case. Sanju Verma.
Thank you. Arnab, this is a very interesting debate and completely up my alley. I just want to, correct Suhail on one thing. It's not 8 million. It's, actually 800 million. 80 crore people are given free ration every single month. Yeah. Yes. But Suhail made some interesting points. First, let me take the bull by the horns. The Ayushman Bharat scheme which Suhail spoke of, I think that is one of the most game-changing schemes for the lower middle class and for people whom we typically put in the middle class bracket, with more than 33 crore Ayushman cards having been given till date. And I'm sure Prime Minister Modi in his third term will fulfill the promise of making Ayushman Bharat accessible to everybody above 70 years of age. Now, whether it should be made accessible to everybody above 50 years of age or 60 years of age, I'm sure the government is seized of the situation and will take the necessary steps. Very humbly, I just want to say one thing. I'm not going into the hackneyed argument about the fact that last year, because, on Arnab Goswami's, these kind of debates, you have to be absolutely crystal clear with facts. I just got some data. 7.4 crore people filed their taxes in FY 22-23. Out of these 7.4 crore people, 5.16 crore people paid zero tax. That means 70% of the assessees paid zero tax. 2.24 crore people paid the entire direct tax amount. So the first point is that if only 2.24 crore people are paying taxes out of a population of 140 crore, it means only 1.6% of the population is paying taxes, and it means only 2.3% of the adult population is paying taxes, assuming India has 94
But that's the government's
adults,
failure.
which clearly means, I'm coming to your...
That's the government's failure. Why should the middle class pay for the government's failure?
Can I finish? I'm coming to a point. Why do you interject me? I was coming to that. Can you hold your horses or no? So that brings me to the legitimate point. If only 2.24 crore people out of an adult population of 94 crore people are paying taxes, it certainly means that these 2.24 crore people are bearing disproportionate burden. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that. Now, has the surcharge come down from 37% for those in the highest income tax bracket to 25%? Yes. Has the overall tax rate come down from 43% to 39% for the highest income tax bracket? Yes. But is it still on the higher side? Most certainly, yes. Do rates need to come down? Yes. Does the tax base need to go up? Yes. Does tax compliance need to improve? Yes. Do tax loopholes need to be plugged
No,
in?
no, no,
Yes.
then do
but
it.
for Arnab Goswami,
No.
please, my last point.
No.
For Arnab Goswami to say
No.
that the BJP has done nothing for middle class is absolute balderdash.
Okay,
because
fine.
Even
I
today,
don't
more
think
than
you have
5
done
crore
enough.
People do not pay taxes.
I don't think you have done enough, and despite your colorful expressions, I will continue to say so. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, and then I'll bring in the other argument. Viewers, the middle class is the most compliant part of the country. Now, Kishore and Lokesh, let's be reasonable. You've got a class of 100 students. 98 don't follow the rules. 2 obediently follow the rules. Instead of making sure that at least 50% follow the rules, you start caning the 2%. And when they ask you why, you tell them that it is because 98% are not following the rules. So you're going to cane the middle class and punish the middle class because the rest of them don't. Then the 2% will come around and ask you, everyone on, that why are you making us, why are you punishing us because you can't discipline the rest of them? This government, we all know, has been in power for 10 years and more. After 10 years, you do not have that liberty. I also want to make the point, viewers, there is so much inflation, you all know that. So 1 rupee of 2012 is worth a little over 50 paisa today. And you pay more tax. So you are in a high inflation cycle. It may relatively come down from 6% to 5%, not the point. Cumulatively, there has been incredible inflation, and that is wrong. Viewers, we need to change the way we've operated. I think Mr. Modi, the finance minister, should all evaluate that they've got something wrong. Instead of congratulating themselves on GST collections, they should look at the number of people who they've got into compliance. If they haven't, it is the government's failure. I don't want to get the middle class punished for the government's failure. I want to bring in Lokesh. 1 minute. I had to contradict you. So when you use words like balderdash and all that, it sounds very nice. But then I won't use these expressions. I will just tell you the middle class is expecting something this time. Lokesh.
Arnab, don't be lopsided in your arguments.
The economic survey stated that the RBI expects a 4.5% headline inflation in the coming year. Now, if you look at the headline inflation, we also include the food and the fuel inflation, unlike America, which simply concentrates upon the core inflation. And the food inflation right now is in double digits. Vegetable inflation has soared to 30%. So the point is, this food inflation pinches the middle class and poor more than the corporate class. So if you look at the overall manner in which the inflation basket is, you see that there are certain commodities which are very much below the inflation target, and there are certain necessary commodities which are very much higher and which makes the middle class vulnerable. In fact, if right now the government ignores the middle class, it will convert the middle class into dependent class. The conversion of this dependent class is going to overall increase the social sector spending. It is going to, Madam, please allow me to complete. Madam, please allow me to complete.
You are peddling wrong data.
Please.
What is core inflation today?
Arnab, please allow me to complete.
Arnab, great.
Please moderate.
Manufactured inflation. It is only 0.1%.
Arnab, can I please have my point?
Fuel inflation.
Madam, please give me a minute. Give me a minute. Madam, if you are talking about the aggregate demand, the overall consumption, it is the middle class which acts as the consumer class. And if you are going to erode the middle class of its propensity to save, the propensity to consume, please tell me, how are you going to create a good, sound aggregate demand into the market? Arnab, please, Arnab, I cannot put forth.
1 minute. Sanju, hear the contrary view. I request you. Hear the contrary view. Hear the contrary view, and I'll tell you one thing. This time you have a different balancing act to do. And I'm getting all views. You may say it's false, whatever, then you'll say I'm false. Everyone who disagrees with you is false. It's not called false.
It is negative 2%. I want to ask Arnab Goswami, what is manufactured inflation today? It is only 0.14%. I want to ask Arnab Goswami, what was the average LPG cylinder price under Manmohan Singh's 10 years? It was 986
What about the food
rupees.
inflation?
Today,
What about the
average
pulses?
LPG cylinder
The
price
pulses
in the
it has
last
soared to
10 years is
11%. What about rice,
rupees.
wheat, cereals,
Do not
vegetable?
tell
Vegetable is
false data.
30%.
The free ration scheme has
What
been
are we going to
helping
eat?
middle
Manufactured
classes in
products?
the lower income brackets. It is not like your Khata-Khat scheme. You promised 10 kg of rice in Karnataka. Khata-Khat.
Okay, now Sanju, I'm getting the others in. Lokesh, allow me. Sanju, 1 minute. I'll get Abbas and Suman Kumar Mukherjee and Kishore, and then we'll have a free-flowing debate. See, I think the 1 minute, please, Sanju. See, the reality is this. See, what happens this time? It's slightly complicated. There will be pressures on the government from Chandrababu Naidu. There will be pressures from the Bihar government. They will come to Delhi with their shopping list and their demands, 60,000 crore, 70,000 crore, 100,000 crore packages, and they will get it. I want to remind everyone who's financing all this. This is also being financed by the middle class because, you know, our direct tax collection has gone up by almost 20%. Who's funding this? The middle class. Personal income tax payments have gone to 3.6 lakh crore from 2.9 lakh crore, and that's 70,000 crore. That's how compliant the middle class is. Now, what I'm saying tonight is this. You'll need to balance in the budget. You'll need to tell Mr. Chandrababu Naidu and Nitish Kumar that, see, I know you're backing me, but the middle class has also backed me. So my political considerations will come later. My obligations to the people of India and the salaried middle class will have to come first. Tough choice. Can they do it? Abbas is on the debate tonight. Viewers taking calls in 2 minutes. Abbas.
Arnab, first of all, see, I believe that every citizen pays taxes, either they are direct taxes or indirect taxes, because we all know that if any farmer buys a fertilizer, he's paying tax. So I don't think that it would be very unfortunate and unfair to say that, you know, people are not paying taxes. But the problem here is, see, as far as the middle class is concerned, we have seen how 230 million people have gone down from middle class to below poverty line during the time of COVID in this government. We have seen how the income of the middle class has fallen, and at the same time, the cost of living has increased. The wages are either stagnant or they have declined. So, and the biggest problem, today's economic survey, it has clearly shown that, you know, the biggest emphasis, the government emphasis should be on healthcare, should be on diet, and should be on mental health. And that is basically, you know, the middle class, what the middle class needs. But the government is not focusing it. This economic survey has exposed
This government is committed to the middle class. That is precisely the reason. The basic exemption limit was raised to 2.5 lakh per annum, and for senior citizens to 3 lakh per annum. That is precisely the tax benefits you can claim
if you want
under Section 24 were raised to 2 lakh per annum. That is precisely the reason. The benefits you can claim under NPS were raised to 50,000 per annum. That is precisely the reason. The standard deduction limit was raised to 50,000 per annum. That is precisely the reason. Double taxation of ESOPs was removed by the Modi government.
Everybody wants to pay direct taxes. Everybody wants to pay taxes in the form of
tax rebates,
but
you end up paying zero tax. If you're earning 9 lakh per annum, you end up paying marginal tax if you take advantage of all the exemptions and tax rebates. So tax rates for
the biggest failure of the Bharatiya Janata Party is they are providing 800 million people free ration.
I don't seem to be making any headway in the debate, but I just want to set up what the expectations will be from the viewers tonight. And Mahadev is calling in from Kerala. I'll take 3 quick calls. Mahadev, what do you think on this?
Yes, sir. Actually, I like to put my view here. See, most of the rich farmers are not taxed actually.
Correct.
So they are given non-taxable income like that. So when they have to file their return actually showing their total income, once they are filing their return, if it is crossing 1 crore or 2 crore or 3 crore, they should be heavily taxed for a minimum of 40% or so. And most of them are depositing cash because there won't be any digital payment for them actually, showing small income. most of the corrupt people are showing the income through farming or agriculture, which are not taxed actually. Most of the rich farmers should be taxed, and the taxable rate for middle class should be reduced actually, very much reduced. And one more thing I have to put my point here is that on GST, for medical insurance, it is being given 18% tax, which is too high actually. It should be less than, it should be nil tax, or it should be less than 5%. And on the bottom line is that the rich farmers should be taxed heavily, not on middle class.
Absolutely. So there are two parts. Increase.
Arnab, can I make a point, please?
One, I want to go to Kishore because he hasn't spoken. Ladies and gentlemen, there are multiple ways. You can look at individual heads, fuel, education, medical insurance. You can do all that way. I am talking also about things such as the basic exemption limit, such as separate deduction on repayment of home loans, improvement of the new tax regime, subscribers of the old tax regime getting more benefits so that people who've been honest, good, compliant are incentivized to be so. Common people of India are expecting a revision in tax slabs, and that's the controversy tonight. What do you think, Kishore? Will we get it tomorrow, or will it be a letdown for the middle class again?
Okay. Good evening to all my panelists. Let me first tell you one simple data which will shock you, Arnab. From 1938, I've got the data of the average expense of a family of a middle class. In 1938, it was 10 rupees. 20 years later, in 58, it was 100 rupees. 20 years later, in 78, it was 1,000 rupees. 20 years later, in 98, it was 10,000 rupees. 20 years later, in 2018, it's 1 lakh rupees. This is slightly on the higher middle class. 20 years later, in 2038, it will be 10 lakhs a month. So let's not forget the rise of expense for a middle class family is 10x every 20 years. These are factual data. Point number one. Point number two, we need to understand middle class salaried people are the most honest, and I need to admit by default, not only by choice, but they have no choice. Third point, we need to understand that if your tax compliance net is poor, you can't penalize the honest. And the fourth important point, though I respect Sanju Verma and her views, but you need to understand that what is done is not enough. I am a financial consultant. Every third customer whom I meet or person I meet asks me only one question. What am I getting? If I go to a government hospital, whichever state, what is the state of the hospital?
Yeah, what are we getting? Good point.
So this is the condition of the middle class. So do not tell me that the middle class enjoys. Middle class is honest.
No offense to you. I want to ask you, what was the rate for services? What was the service tax rate prior to GST? It was 28%.
But this
today
needs
for
to be
most
addressed.
services, you
The
pay
middle
less than
class
11%.
cannot be the goat which is
For
cut every
affordable
time.
housing, the GST rate is 1%. For non-affordable housing, the GST rate is 5%. There are 1,286 items of mass consumption. 1,175 items, the GST rate is less than 5%, which means 91% of the basket of ordinary goods and services, the average tax rate is between 0 and 5%.
Viewers, this is a riotous debate. I'm going to Suman Kumar Mukherjee next before our next caller. Srinivas, your point, and Mr. Mukherjee, I'll come to you right after that. Srinivas is calling from Bengaluru tonight as people are asking what the middle class should rightfully expect after 10 years of the Modi government. Srinivas,
yes,
what do you anticipate?
Hello?
What do you anticipate, Srini?
See, all this, since 2014 when Narendra Modi government came in, I have been very happy to pay the taxes. That's not an issue for me. But as the year by year it goes, we get the increment and see, the point is, I have been paying direct tax as well as indirect tax in the form of GST and other things. Right? But as our income is growing, income tax is also growing and the price rise is also going. That is not able to balance that.
I agree.
I want to come in for a bit.
I agree. I'm getting Suman Kumar Mukherjee. Suman, this time, do you expect some relief? I also find here, Mr. Mukherjee, that this time, interestingly, it's not just people like us. It is India Inc., it is CII. I just think I heard I heard the president of FICCI just say that, you know, this is time that there should be income tax cut, especially for those in the lower tax bracket. So it's interesting. Corporate India is also demanding it this time. What do you think? Why is that, Dr. Mukherjee?
Yes, let me first say that whereas I am totally in agreement with you, the middle class needs relief. I'm still not sure you understand what is the middle class. Because if you have public sector servants, they get their pay regularly hiked, regardless of their performance, because they are on an increment scale. If you are in the private sector, you get sacked if your profitability falls. You have the unorganized sector, which is perhaps making much more money than the salaried people, and they are just not there because they are unorganized, they don't pay GST, they are on street corners, they are hawkers, that's also middle class, and perhaps their income is much higher than us. The basic point is, when you give a DA, you tax it back by not changing the slabs. So it's like a monkey on a greasy pole. You go up and then you tax more. So the basic point is that you've got to change your tax slabs if you mean business. The second point, which is much more important, is that we are not looking at sectors that are unexplored. We've not looked at, let's say, the blue economy, 4,500 kilometers of coastline, where the middle class, the poor are there, and there's great opportunity for them to make money. You ask people to save, and when they save, you tax them. I'm particularly serious about the senior citizens. We are made to pay for medical insurance, and we are made to pay GST on that. I'd like to know, when a rich man throws a grand party and spends it in that affluence, what GST does he pay? What GST does he pay to see that at 18% or 28%, the country gets a hospital, we get another school, or we get another railway station? So there are problems that we are not looking at. Your middle class is not the one that you know. Now add to that the state differential. There are states that are not paying DA, and you're saying that, well, we are one country, one tax slab. I say, hello, we are not getting the DA, and we are entitled to. That's inflation. So Calder said it's a kind of forced saving when you're having inflation and you're taxing it away from the people. Now we are having forced saving. You're taxing the people through inflation. So DA is a birthright. You don't tax that. Don't increase that in your slab. And if you need to, whoever is talking, please tell her to keep quiet. She should have some civility. She should have some civility to give others a chance.
Sanju won't allow anybody to speak. She won't allow anybody to speak.
And that's the point that I'd like to make.
She won't allow anybody to speak. And she is not muted either.
I think you should give her the whole show. I think you give the mic to her. Let her
No, that's not the point.
With no offense, do not lie.
And she is allowed to speak without any intermittent.
Senior citizens end up paying 0%
And she will keep on speaking on every speaker.
Income tax regime.
I think some very sensible points are being made, Sanju, and I think questions are being raised on policy and allocation. You should be open to it. It depends on how you want to look at data, Sanju. And I think this, you need to consider one thing.
I challenge you. What is your annual income? I'm sure you're paying zero taxes. A senior citizen is not asked to pay taxes by the Modi government. Please do not lie, sir. Please do not lie.
What are you saying? What are you saying?
Pension income is tax.
What are you saying?
Tax saving scheme. You invest as much as possible.
I'm getting Kishore in. Kishore,
you can get more than 7.5% interest rate.
I'd like to know the speaker.
Not available to the younger middle class.
Has she paid medical insurance?
Sir, do not lie. I want to ask you, what is your annual income?
She is to pay 18% GST.
Please be honest and tell me what is your annual income, and did you pay any tax last year? Did you pay?
I'll tell it to an income tax officer, not you.
No, so do not lie.
That's not your question.
Simply because
who are you?
Senior citizen, I will not allow you to peddle false data.
She will not allow anybody to speak.
Last year.
Sanju, you need to, Sanju, the people you are speaking to, one minute, Ms. Dr. Mukherjee, 1 minute. Sanju, the people you are speaking to today, just to bring everything down to earth, are the people who are funding the capex and welfare programs of the government.
I know that.
And I think to be contemptuous of them would not be appropriate. Mahesh is calling from Hyderabad. Mahesh, what do you think?
Yeah, hi Arnab.
Hi.
Hi everyone. See, we are very happy to pay the taxes, okay? But one burning question I have is, what we are getting back? We are not getting basic amenities. We are not getting any good roads, or we are not getting any education, like free education in other countries for taxpayers. Not in health. We are paying for them from our pocket. So what is this? And again, there is nothing at all. We are paying lakhs of taxes. After retirement for private sector, unlike the government sector, we will not have any retirement. For that also, we only should keep our pockets. Then why they are paying taxes? That's the biggest question. See, we are paying taxes, but why? We are not getting anything back.
Yeah, I think
question.
Anyone wants to address that?
I want to come in here.
No, Suhail wants to add to it, and then I'll come to you, Sanju. Suhail, I think
getting everything. So I just want to say three quick things. Number one, Shumon is absolutely right. When we pay taxes, we expect something in return. It's not a quid pro quo that every citizen wants. You know, some Hyderabad gentleman said, I'm very happy. No one is happy to pay tax. If he's happy, then we'll give him a Bharat Ratna. But we pay taxes because that's our citizen duty. Having said that, you know, the government must also respect the fact that you are also doing subterfuge taxation. You say, I brought the rates down, then you add one cess plus another goddamn cess plus another damn cess. Why? Why are you adding an education cess when you can't run an examination properly? So that's second. Third, as Shumon rightly said, we must understand that there are people at the senior citizen level. I think senior citizenship is defined as plus 60. You try booking, you try asking for any relief, you don't get that relief. Now, I'm not saying who's responsible, who's not. Someone's got to carry the can.
Correct. Abbas is adding in. Suhail, Abbas.
You can't blame the citizen for doing his job and not take responsibility.
Got it, Suhail. Abbas.
I agree with Mr. Seth, and I would just want to make one quick point that, see, for middle class, government is just a service provider. And the question with the middle class is asking that what are they getting in return? With the money they are paying to the government, what services they are getting? They're not getting their due services. And what relief have the government given to them during the time of COVID? That's the one and foremost question. See, the middle class people are suffering. Their basic problems are loans. Their problems are. Have you given a single loan of a middle class person? You know how many suicides happened because of loans of middle class, which are less than 2 lakh rupees? Do you know that? Do you know that? Do you know that? You know how difficult it is for the middle class to get an education loan in India? See, there are no health infrastructure, there are no education. So that's the reason middle class is sending their children to private schools, and they're spending money. Their incomes are declining every day while the cost of living has been increasing. Similar cases with the poor people. See, the government has failed to bring poor people in the middle class slab. That is the biggest problem. In order to thrive our economy, we need more and more middle class.
Okay, we'll take one caller, Utpal from Mumbai. Utpal, which side are you on this?
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Utpal.
I am from an hospitality industry. I wanted to check one thing. Today we are paying so much of money for traveling and traveling from one city to another, or maybe one country to another. There is so much of irrational rate on the rate. Just 2 days back, we have a massive blackout, and the rates the next day went up to 50,000, 40,000. Is there no rationalization of fares which will come up? Is there someone who's going to take it at the higher level? We are just talking after every aviation minister is proposed the same thing. And last thing I wanted to add, we are getting an LTA which is 30% charge if you withdraw within 1 year. It is part of the CTC, and again we have been charged if not utilized. It's my money, and I'm again taxed over and above what I'm going to pay as my total professional fee.
I agree with you completely on your first point and your second point. The first point, of course, if somebody looks at the impact of aviation and of air travel on the effective rate of inflation, you will find the inflation goes up many, many times depending on the segment of population that you're speaking in. So if you looked at that 10 to 30 lakh and 30 lakh plus segment, that is a huge contributor. And that, we cannot have a situation where there's sort of semi-monopolies which are created. Lokesh, I'm running short of time. I give you 10 seconds. I'm extending the debate by 30 seconds. Lokesh, 10 seconds to you, please.
Arnab, one point I want to make.
One more important point is the climate change and insurance that has to be taken care of. If presently you look at the insurance policy, Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, it is not the farmer who has sowed the seeds who benefit, but the landlord, he gets the entire benefit of the insurance scheme.
Now we're straying a little from the immediate Kishore.
55,000 crores.
So what we expect is that the due person, the person who suffers from such form of shocks, that person must get some form of insurance policy, especially from the government, because the most vulnerable over here is the middle class as well as the poor class.
Insurance बीमा 1% से कम की भरपाई करनी पड़ती है. Do not penalize.
240 is the number. You may be graded further down.
Given via PM Kisan to more than 12 crore farmers.
Ladies and gentlemen, see, I don't think I've asked for very much. I've just placed something before which needs to be debated. I hope to come back with you with some rewards the middle class gets tomorrow.